Connection Show. Inspiring hope. Health. Healing. Sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops. Live with Jill Reynolds. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like our page. Share it. Subscribe to it now and click the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming shows.
The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Brave Heart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Leigh McCorkle. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Hello.
Well, it's so great to finally get to meet you. I know we had some issues where we had to push things off, and I never did get a chance to meet you when you were in Branson, so I'm glad that we could finally meet today. And where are you coming in from? Where do you live, Amy?
I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in Shepherdsville, Kentucky, but to give a frame of reference, we're about 10 minutes outside the Jefferson County line, which is Louisville.
By outside of Louisville. Okay, awesome. Well, on this show, Amy, we love to connect the dots of story, and you're used to dots of story, the good things, some of the hardships, the hard things in life, and then bring that forward in how your life has been transformed and led you to who you are today. So could you take us back in time to little Amy growing up and share with us what your life was like and then how your life has progressed to who you are today?
Okay, so not to ramble, but I am a child of divorce. My biological father and my mother divorced around the time I was 1.5, basically. So, but my mom, definitely what I would say is she went to her and my stepdad, who I call dad, they met each other in Overeaters Anonymous. And she definitely married up in class, I'm not talking about necessarily money, but in the kind of character he had and the kind of, because he was just, he was just dad. He wasn't, we called him Johnny Daddy. Because we were me and my sister Brandy, because when we were younger, because we thought everybody had a dad and everybody had a Johnny Daddy. So, but at a young age, I was sexually abused by men on my biological father's side, and but there was like a counterbalance to that, because mom and dad were, even when, you misbehave or don't get along with your parents, I always knew they loved me, and I always had a roof over my head, and I always had food in my belly. Even though we didn't have a lot, I didn't feel that, they did a good job of making us feel loved and safe and protected. Now, in middle school, I think that is the worst time ever for anybody, but especially for me, I had stuff put in my hair. I was punched in the face. It was I was really bullied. I got to high school. It was much better, but I had trouble connecting to people for some reason. And I didn't understand why. My parents, right, we went to church. It wasn't lack of a spiritual thing or anything. It was something different about the way my brain was wired. And we didn't really get to the root of that. And I was like an overachiever, right? I played I was a field hockey player. I debated, I played chess. I was on the quick recall team. I was on Governor's Cup. If there was I was in pep band. I was in marching band. Wow. If there was a letter for it, right? I was like the extracurricular activities queen in high school. I had a hard time connecting with people. People felt closer to me than I would feel closer to them. And as I got to be an adult in my early 20s, I met my friend Missy, and we and as we wrote, we would write late into the night, and I mean not just a little bit, like it'd be until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would say one more scene. I mean, we wrote as much as 23 pages in one night, so it was just right. And then we moved to Texas to make it in Hollywood. So and we moved to San Antonio because it was cost comparative of living to where we were in Kentucky. And it was just outside, and it was travel wise easy to get to Dallas or to Austin or any of those places. However, almost as soon as landing in that state, the warning signs that had been there about the bipolar disorder started manifesting in even larger ways and in more intense ways. And I experienced what is called a dysphoric mania or mixed state. And that's when you're cycling so fast between the moods, you're experiencing both mania and depression simultaneously. Like you get the energy from the mania, but you get the self-loathing and the depression from the depression. And it would feel like my skin was crawling, my mind, my thoughts raced. And we made it a year before, because I basically had 2 of these major episodes called, which I refer to as breakdowns, because the second time it was like it bookended the year. And the second time I had it, I basically felt, the best way to describe it was I felt very fragile. I felt like someone had put a pane of glass. I was a pane of glass, and someone had taken a hammer and just pounded it into powder with a hammer. And I couldn't really take care of myself. I had trouble. Self-care was like non-existent. I had a hard time taking a shower. I had a hard time cleaning my house. Stuff that people take for granted. I was incapacitated.
And how old were you at this time, Amy? About at this time, do you remember?
24.
24. And now so the audience knows, because I don't know. So who is Missy? Because you said Missy.
Okay, Missy is my best friend and caregiver, and I don't mean in a romantic sense. Usually when you hear caregiver, you think mom, dad, sister, brother, husband, wife. She was just simply my friend. And she really, at times, I'm not proud of this, but when you're in a state like that, I threatened her life. And she could have called and said, "Hey, Dad, come get me. This crazy person, this person is not my friend. She has come. What has she done with my friend?" And, but she stood by me. And basically, Missy is my co-writer, my best friend. I would say we're more like sisters because of what we went through.
And how did you guys meet, Amy? How did you and Missy meet?
Oh, in Louisville, we both worked at a bookstore.
Okay. We
worked at B. Dalton Bookseller.
And was this after you got out of high school that you guys met?
Yes, we met when she was 22 and I was 21.
Okay. All right. So that helps me to catch up. So now you're in Texas with Missy, and these 2 episodes have developed in your life that you kind of pushed down all those years. You were kind of like a ball in water that keeps popping up, right?
Yeah, right. Like the first time I started manifesting symptoms, but really didn't know, because, people weren't talking about it back then, except for Patty Duke. She was a trailblazer. So I suffered my first major depression as a junior in high school. And then if you look in a journal I kept my senior year, I could tell I was manic by the way my handwriting was. Mm-hmm. It was like just crunched up and scrawled, and it was just, and as the 20s came, it became more and more intense. And like you said, it was like a ball, like, right? It would submerge for a while. And people around me would say, oh, your highs are really high and your lows are really low. But the reason the doctors had the psychiatrists and therapists had a hard time diagnosing me is that some of the symptoms that a lot of other people who are diagnosed with this have, like hypersexuality, which will drive their sex drive will drive them to be promiscuous. And it's not like that's them. That's that, right? And another thing is addiction.
Right. I was just going to ask you, because I wonder, during this period of time of not being diagnosed, did you start to get into drugs or alcohol or sex or acting out in those matters? Because that usually manifests, and/or suicide ideation. Did you go through this?
Suicide ideation, yes. No drugs, no alcohol, no sex.
Now, how about food? Food, would you start binging then?
Okay, I would say, here's the weird thing. There's this thing associated with bipolar disorder. Like, you won't eat all day, right? You won't feel you're hungry. You kind of got to, like, if you're doing something, you can, like, tune everything out. And if you don't have someone kind of there going, you need to eat something, you won't. But then it rebounds at night, and it's called night eating, and you just eat and eat and eat and eat.
Well, I want to pause you on that, because one of the things that I happen to know, Amy, which doesn't get spoken about enough, and you being a writer, this is good for you to know. It's called ARFID, restrictive avoidance disorder, and what it is, it's AR, restrictive avoidance disorder, and what it is when you start restricting and avoiding food all day long, like you just don't eat, you forget to, you literally, sometimes you actually forget to eat. It starts off with the person who says, oh, I'm not hungry in the morning, so they miss breakfast. And then lunch comes and they're so busy doing all the things, like all your activities, that you just don't stop to eat lunch. And then by the time you get home, your body is so self-starved that you just start eating everything in sight. And you start doing the night eating or the binge eating or emotional eating. But what isn't discussed by most people is what occurs then when this is done for a length of time. It actually turns off the leptin, which is a hormone in your brain. And when the hormone leptin is turned off, you truly have no idea if you're hungry or full, because leptin is the hormone God gives our brain to tell us when to eat and when to stop eating. So when you continue this cycle of restricting, avoiding, and then binging, you really don't know when you're hungry or full. So it's very difficult to break the cycle.
Well, I had to have the cycle broken for me. I once weighed, I don't now, but recently, I hate Facebook when the old pictures come through. I weighed well over 300 pounds. And I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2016. So I had to start eating, right? And actually, I just recently hired a personal assistant. I said, please program in a place on the schedule where it says eat lunch. So I will break from what I'm doing and go and grab a sandwich or a soup or whatever I need, or my midday snack or whatever. So that's what I do to deal with it.
Yep, I had to do that too. Set an alarm and tell yourself it's time to eat.
Yeah, I've lost 75 pounds since 2016. Not like real fast, right? Like I lost 40 and then I gained 20 back. And then the wildest thing was when I got COVID in September of 2020, November of 2020, I lost like 18 pounds. Like I call it going on the COVID diet. I said, I don't recommend it. And then like, it was like a steady weight loss of down 9 pounds. So it was like I didn't gain back the 18 that I lost, and it's pretty much stabilized. So I'm trying, But when you're diabetic and you have to have insulin, and it makes weight loss a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, so take us now, thank you for sharing that. So take us now to the doctor, if you wouldn't mind, that finally diagnosed you. And then what started to happen when you finally had someone that heard you, saw you, and could help you.
Okay, I want to include the first 2 doctors that I saw, because it's important to note that it can be, you see, as someone with bipolar disorder or mental illness, serious mental illness, it can take up to 3 times to get a diagnosis. And that's what it took me. And the first doctor told me it was all in my head. And I thought, what the kind of heck a psychiatrist are you? You're telling me it's in my head. Well, duh. But the last one who actually gave me the diagnosis was Dr. Domrez, and it was like a double-edged sword. It was like a relief to know what was actually going on with me. And it was a relief to know, because at that time the disease had progressed to the extent I was unable to write anything. Mm. I was not writing at all. It was awful. I couldn't concentrate. I said, I can't live like this. So he gave me medicine, lithium, and Zoloft. And he told, don't start the Zoloft until like so much time has passed, because the lithium will stabilize you, and because I was having severe depression as well. And it was a bit of it's like a part art, part science kind of thing, because bipolar kind of looks different on everybody. I know people have the stereotypical views. The insidious part of the disease is that your brain is lying to you, basically. And it's telling you, you don't need these meds. But that wasn't my issue. I was like, tell me what to do. God gave us doctors. So these doctors know what to do. So it took a while. It took a couple of years to get the actual drug cocktail just right. But when it took me from October of 1999 to 2014 to actually get full stability. Mm. And in 2011, it started with me getting books published. I was writing, and it actually, the 10 or 11 year anniversary just passed of me getting my first book published.
Wow. That's amazing. Praise God.
Yes.
And I am so proud to meet you. You're an inspiration. I have gone through a lot. The similarities in my life to what you are, and I now have 41 years recovered from crack cocaine and alcoholism, Amy. And,
God bless.
Yeah, and for me, growing up in a very severely post-traumatic stress disordered family with lots of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. I had to go to treatment 6 different times, once for depression, once for codependency, and 5 times for eating disorders, Amy. And I remember on my discharge paperwork, it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but I would read my discharge paperwork to see the notes from the therapist. And each one kept saying that I had an issue with connection, that I never felt like I had a sense of belonging. And the second one was that I had no boundaries because of the way our family was. And so those 2 kept coming up, no boundaries and no sense of connection, or of feeling like I belonged at all.
Right.
And so as a result of it, my last treatment, one of my last treatments for eating disorders and PTSD, I sat with the psychiatrist, Amy, and I said, so Dr. Q, what would you say my diagnosis is? Am I bipolar? Do I have borderline personality disorder? Like, what do you see in me? And he sat there, Amy, it was so cute. And he sat back, and he had the cutest little smile and stuff, and he was very sweet. And he just said, well, Jill, I guess I would diagnose you with unique personality disorder. I've never met anyone like you. He said, so that's what your diagnosis will be. I should write a book called Unique Personality Disorder. What it was for me, Amy, is I knew my life had become so desperately unmanageable for all the pains I went through. And I was desperate for a diagnosis. I needed something to define me because I was so confused in my own mind. Why am I still acting this way? And so as soon as he told me unique personality disorder, for me,
yeah,
it seemed to set me free to be able to say, okay, I'm all right. I'm going to be all right.
My therapist, my initial therapist, worked really hard in ingraining in me to say I have bipolar disorder, not I am bipolar. For the longest time, I said I am bipolar, and I didn't understand, but it was just a habit that I got into. And it's like I said, you can have bipolar disorder, but it doesn't have to define who you are or what you want to be. So, but I have no I feel like it's important. Like, I understand why some people, they call it coming out of the bipolar closet, so to speak. If you're at work, like professionally, and it's hard for people because people don't understand. They have this because of news stations, and they all do it. Whenever there's a shooting, they'll say, oh, well, this is the reason why. And they don't actually have that person's diagnosis. And when they say something and they say it in the way they do, they don't understand. They're stigmatizing not just that one person who is a criminal for doing what they did, but they are like painting a wide swath, a whole community of individuals who are just trying to live their lives day by day.
Amen. Amen. I love that, Amy. I love that, and I agree with you. So take us on this journey. I want to hear this unbelievable journey of you, take us on the journey of you then finding yourself in this niche of writing, and Missy being a support person and a friend. And on my screen here, I have one, and I don't know enough about you, so I want to know. What is Letters to Daniel, and what else have you written and done? Because I just would love to know about the arts part of you, too.
Okay. So what Letters to Daniel started out as is a blog. A blog back in May of 2013. And it was basically, I was writing, and the first entry was I was just writing an open letter to my favorite actor, Daniel Craig, formerly Mr. 007. So I know when I saw, I don't know what people think of this, but when I saw Casino Royale, it was like just blown away. Like, how like when you see a movie that you just absolutely love and you want to tell everybody about it. And so I needed a way to process what was going on inside of me, a safe place where I could come and just put and vent and kind of go through what's going, just process everyday life, what it's like being in recovery with an illness like bipolar disorder. And so I write this first letter, and about halfway through it, I said, he's not even on social media. You in the editorial sense, I have always wanted to write a memoir about my bipolar disorder. So basically what I used the blog for after that first letter, and realizing I couldn't fit my whole life story into one post, I made it my memoirs. Every letter was a different time period in my life. And as I got it, you could see my voice and me as the blog progressed. Not only was I getting stronger, my writing was getting stronger. And then I would gather them up into volumes and publish them on Amazon. And eventually I had enough for like a 400-page book. And it was a 3rd edition, and it was revised with 2/3 new material. And so as far as I was concerned, he was just basically, I might as well have been saying Dear God, or Dear Diary. It was Dear Daniel. He was just an individual, an actor whose performance inspired me and made me comfortable enough for whatever reason to just be honest, completely honest about what I say about my life. And then you had the books. I have written close to 35.
So pause for just a minute, because I love interviewing you. You're so fun. So let me ask, so did you ever meet Daniel Craig?
Okay, so
I gotta know.
That's another story.
I gotta know.
So back at the end of March and the very beginning of April, as you know, or maybe don't know, Daniel is appearing on Broadway in the play Macbeth. And I took my movie that I made out of it, and the memoir, and a couple of other books, and we went to see me and a friend, not Missy, but me and another friend, because she couldn't get off from work, and she was so disappointed. And we went up and saw Macbeth. But before we went in, and you talk about God orchestrating something, the universe, however, your audience wants to put it. You had to either be vaxxed and have the card, because this was in New York, or you had to have a 3-day PCR test at least 72 hours before, or you had to have a rapid test 6 hours or less before showtime. So we fly into New York, and we find a mobile unit literally up the block from our hotel. And I was vaxxed and had the card. And Anna didn't want to be vaxxed, but she had no problem taking the test to get into the theater. So she went into the mobile, and they did their little test, rapid test. And they said, listen, you'll have PCR results by tomorrow, and you'll have the 6 hours or less test, the rapid test, tonight. So we go eat at this place called Daniela Trattoria. It's an authentic Italian food restaurant. It was delicious. And the ambiance was great. It was like everything you want, right? So she gets her results. They're negative. Yay! And so we walk around there, and they say, oh, we can't open for another hour. So we walk back to our hotel, which is just a block up from Longacre Theater. And she goes, why don't you get your book and your movie and sign them, and then we'll try to get them back to them. Because they weren't doing face-to-face meetings or selfies or autographs because of they're just more restrictive up there. So I was like, okay, so how am I going to get these books back to them? So this one secure, we're standing, there's the barricades, and there's a line, but we're standing outside the barricade. And this big, tall, skinny, white, older guy with white hair, I tried to explain to him what I was doing. He said, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Da, 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 da. And I was like, well, you're exactly what I think of a New Yorker when I think of a New Yorker. But at the same time, almost immediately after him, this gentleman, Chris, comes up and says, hey, he goes, hey, what you got there? And I told him what the blog was about and the movie, and he was all impressed. He goes, well, let me go see if his bodyguard will come. Daniel's bodyguard will come out here and take him. So he goes back there, backstage, and he's talking to Daniel's security, but Daniel's warming up, before he goes on stage and doing the actor thing. And so Daniel overhears them and says, wait a minute. What are you talking about? And they said, Chris told Daniel what I told him, which was basically, as my fandom of his work inspired me to write and get have a best-selling, best-selling writing career and go and win over 200 awards on film festival circuit, stuff like that. He told him all that, and Daniel got real excited, and he wanted the work because I wasn't asking for anything. I wasn't asking for his autograph. I wasn't asking to see him face to face. I said, I just want to get these things back to you. And he said, listen, tell her I can't take them directly, but to go to the post office tomorrow, mail them to the theater in care of me, and I really want her work. So I didn't get to meet him, but he now has my 3 of my books and the movie I shot based on the blog and book.
And has he responded yet?
No, but I went up to New York a second time just to take a vacation and enjoy the theater district and the touristy parts. And I did have a Daniel Craig sighting. I did see him.
So even when you mailed it, no one ever called you to say, I received it, thank you? So you don't even...
No. I put a tracker thing on it.
Oh, okay.
And so I know he got them. And here's the thing. We were going to go see a second show. We wanted to see Tina, but the policy changed. You had to have a vaccination card. And therefore, we couldn't go. I could have gone, but Anna couldn't have gone. And I said, I'm not going to go to no show without you. So, and then I get home Friday because it was a whirlwind trip, right? Because we did MoMA, the Modern Museum of Art, and we went to Serendipity 3, like in the movies with the frozen hot chocolates. And, we did a lot of touristy things. And then we flew back on Friday, and literally I took off at like 9:30, right? My friend was taking off an hour later because she was coming from Florida. She was going back to Florida, and I was going back to Kentucky. And so I get on the plane. 30 minutes later, the severe weather that had moved through the Midwest was coming through LaGuardia, and they shut down everything. Couldn't get out. I was home by 1:00 in the afternoon. My friend didn't get home until 9:00 at night. Mm. Yeah.
So take us now, if you wouldn't mind. So so for your letters to Daniel, and actually I'm gonna pause because I want to do just a quick commercial break, and then I'm gonna come back, and then I want you to tell us more about what you've published and what else you're doing, because you've got so many different facets to your creativity that the audience doesn't even know about. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And for everyone listening, this girlfriend of mine, Tanya Joy Gibson, was inspired by God in January to do what's called an Esther's Rising conference based on the book of Esther. So I'm going to pause for a moment, give you a little commercial about Esther coming to Branson, and I hope Amy can maybe come. So we're going to pause right now. Thanks a lot.
It's the year 2022, and the warrior women of God have been waiting for this day for generations. These women have been preparing, practicing, training, and have walked through deep valleys to be ready for such a time as this. The God of all gods, the King of the universe, chose them from birth. He destined their very DNA for such a time as this. No one could have known when these women were little girls, they would be called to battle on the front lines during a biblical war of good versus evil. Except God. He knew. For He has been preparing you for such a time as this. We have been called to intercede, pray, activate, and be the warrior bride that God made us to be. Esther was called for such a time as this. She was chosen to go before the king, prepare his heart, and save her people. Join us at the inaugural Esther's Rising Conference in Branson, Missouri. You will learn from extraordinary women who are fighting on the front lines of the battlefield. You will leave activated, prayed for, and given tools to step out and be the Esther you were created to be. Beauty for Ashes, together with Braveheart Workshops, presents the Esther's Rising Conference at the Freedom Encounter Theater in beautiful Branson, Missouri, October 27th to the 29th, 2022. You can attend live or virtually by registering online at www.braveheartworkshops.com. Who knows if you haven't been brought into the kingdom for such a time as this? Receive his calling and join us this fall in Branson, Missouri, October 27th to the 29th, 2022 at the Freedom Encounter Theater. Register now at www.braveheartworkshops.com.
And welcome back, Amy. Thanks so much for just that quick break. So take us on a little bit more of a journey of your creativity and what you've been doing.
Okay, so if you want to know about the Letters to Daniel journey, that was kind of full circle with the trip to the theater. But what happened with it, it started off as the blog. It became a small volume of letters, which ended up hitting number 2 on the USA bestseller list and on Amazon. And then I made a proof of concept documentary for a whole $345, and that included the submission fees to film festivals. And it was really low budget. With that, it had zero production value basically with that kind of cost, but it was like a slideshow, and I put with it like the greatest hits of the letters, and that was the documentary, and it was runner-up and winner at about 4 or 5 festivals, and it won at the most amazing award. It won Best Social Commentary at AOF, and it also won the Lewis Mitchell Award for Best Feature or Short. And I do a shout out to my mentor. He passed away from COVID last August, and he created and ran, and from 2016 to 2021, he was a big supporter. He mentored me, and I've had lots of mentors. He was like my biggest, like outside of my, family. He was probably my biggest champion. And he said, Amy, what his gift was, his God-given gift was, he could take a look at someone's script or movie and tell you where they were going to be like 5 years from now. And he said, Amy, you're amazing. And she goes, when Letters to Daniel went from blog, book, documentary. Then I released the 3rd edition of the book that I put it on sale for free for a week in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. And it hit number 2 in the US, number 3 in Japan, number 4 in Canada, number 6 in Australia, top 20 in Great Britain, and top 50 in Germany and the Netherlands. And then we started pushing, you start shopping, you go to these festivals, you meet these people, you network, you find people who are talented in other areas than you are. I never went to film school, not traditional film school. I went to like Dove S.S. Simmons School, and you get the basics. It's like, but you need to find people who are like, my wheelhouse is probably, I'm good with performances and I'm really good at writing. So I wanted people who complimented me in other areas. And through AOF and Indie Gathering and another smaller festival called Imaginarium, which happens in July, I was able to build a team, or someone called it the Dream Team. In June of 2019, we finally pulled the trigger. We only had $4,500 for pre-production and production. And then I won't say what our editing was, because that was the agreement between me and the editor. But it wasn't like it was still under 10 grand. I will tell you that. And we shot it basically for $6,000 in 6 days. And And then we got it all edited and we're getting ready to go out on the festival circuit. And then COVID says, oh no, you're not going to go on the traditional circuit. So, but the thing is, I'm on disability, so I'm not able to travel as easily as some others might be. And I do a lot of GoFundMes and a lot of Indiegogo's, but the first awards we got for Letters to Daniel were for directing and editing, and I'm really proud of that. So, and then ultimately we went on this run. We actually qualified. We made the film eligible for the Academy Awards in the categories of a Best Original Song and Best Original Score by having a premiere in a theater. And through Dell and AOF, they had the Galaxy Theaters in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it was amazing because, you know, my film was shot so that it would be well received on a movie screen. And in Dell, there were a whole 5 people in the theater, masks on, 2 seats apart, you know. But Dell said, Amy, at the end of there's nothing like your, it was like a waking dream is the best way to put it, because like the poster was in the display and it was constantly rotating, so it was always coming up, and there was a poster next to the theater that the movie actually showed in, and there was a red carpet, there was a step and repeat. It was just very glamorous, even though it was very, you know, and I understood why it had to be that way, but I got to see it with people I cared about, so that's all that mattered at that time. And he said, Amy, kid, you did it. And he goes, your career is going to explode over the next couple of years. And that was the last time I saw him in person. And then I went to Branson, and that was another place where my career just took off. And there was a acquisitions agent from Green Apple Entertainment, and we talked about Letters to Daniel, and it's in the process of being prepared for distribution, regular widespread distribution. And the cool thing is the song and the score were longlisted at the Academy Awards that year. And even better, earlier this year, right after I went to New York and Burbank, at the Indie Series Awards, which is kind of like the Independent Awards for web series. And my movie was told in 10 chapters. So I was able to cut it into 10 episodes, and my score for the movie and Stephanie Ray's song Here With Me were nominated, and then Stephanie actually won. So that's kind of the journey of Letters to Daniel. And books, I have written 35 books, most of them published, about half of them Amazon bestsellers.
What kind of books have you written?
Sci-fi, fantasy, action adventure, nonfiction. I've gotten on a nonfiction kick. I've written about 5 nonfiction books. They're either award winners or bestsellers or both. And now I'm writing on Kindle Vella, which is you write episodes, you know, like serial storytelling, like the way Charles Dickens used to do it in the newspaper. So I've actually made quite a nice chunk of change by doing that.
Wow, you're an amazing woman of God, I'll tell you. You are so unbelievably blessed. Your life is blessed. And I love your Wanted shirt, because that's my theme. My theme is, which we'll talk, Wanted, what does it say? Stealing Christmas.
For stealing Christmas. It's the Grinch.
I just like the wanted part. That's that's my theme song for my life, but that's a whole nother story. Well, Amy, in closing, I'd love to first bring up your bio. So let me bring your bio up. And I have Amy's bio here and the IMDb website with her title to get a hold of her. If there's another way to get a hold of you.
Anywhere across social media. I'm Amy Leigh McCorkle on Facebook. I'm Amy L. McCorkle at Amy L. McCorkle on Twitter. At Letters to Daniel on Instagram. And also my official website is amyleecreations.com.
Okay, I didn't have that. So definitely right before we hang up, when you get done, I want you to email to me. So I'll put it on the YouTube channel, the website.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So in closing, Amy, is there anything else at the very end of things that you got coming up that you want people to know about? Is that anything new, any more releases that are coming up that we should be looking out for?
Okay, so Breaking Through was the film that me and one of my friends from high school made with his family. And it's called Breaking Through, How My Wildest Dreams Came True. And it's just me. And it's really a one-woman show, but everybody looks at it like a documentary. And we intercut entertainment clips and poetry and unique color grade. And it's already won several awards. And a couple of distributors are interested in it. And also, I'm getting ready to launch a television affiliate of G1NBC for the Jefferson County, Fayette County, and Bullitt County areas of Kentucky. And so I'm looking for content.
Wow. Well, we're going to talk when you get off, so don't hang up when we do a closing here. But I would be if you could, you and your girlfriends come to Branson in October 27th and 29th. We're doing an Esther's Rising conference based on the book of Esther and how God has made us all Queen Esthers in our lives. So we're Queen Esthers. All of us are the Queen Esthers. So God bless you, Amy, and I really want to stay connected with you. You're an amazing woman, and I love, love, love your story of hope. Hope, health, and healing. That's what my whole show is.
Yep.
Inspiring hope, health, and healing. And you have received a lot of hope, health, and healing in your life.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. Everyone, have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us on The Connection Show. Bye now. Welcome to The Connection Show, sponsored by Braveheart Workshops Live with Jill Reynolds. MyPillow, our show's featured affiliate partner, thanks you for your support. Stand with Mike Lindell by shopping at MyPillow. To receive a free gift, make sure you use the promo code Braveheart when you check out and receive up to 66% off select items. MyPillow guarantees the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. Drop into mypillow.com/Braveheart today. To check out faster, use your cell phone to scan the QR code and click on the website now to order. Go to mypillow.com/Braveheart and order today.